Alright, got a 2003 f250 regular cab. It was a long wheelbase. And got some cab corners rotted out. And I'm not going to buy the actual drop-in replacement cab corner. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the fender that came off the driver's side and cut a patch out of it and cut the old cab corner metal out and bondo everything in, spot weld everything in good, and show you that way of doing it, because you know some even most is like me, you know, you don't want to buy the whole patch, or you don't need the whole patch, and then the installation is, you know, body work nowadays is ridiculous. And I'll show you how I get everything fitted in, patched up, and welded up. A few things you're gonna need is you can either use air cutoff wheel, you can hear it hissing there, or a grinder on a cutoff wheel. You're gonna need some kind of hammer to beat around with, and a wire brush on a drill, or just some sandpaper would do it. But anyways, what I like to do is, you can see here I've already marked the line of where I'm gonna cut. You have a huge dent here that I'm gonna try to pull out and probably end up filling mostly with bondo to make it work out. But on this right here, you can see the rust holes here. You can hear a difference in the sound up here. Now you got a thud sound, and then you got a hole down here. So what you want to do is you want to take your hammer and try to feel, and you can obviously feel where it's rusted in this area here, but you're going to want to cut up into good metal so you've got good metal to weld into, you know, like that. You don't want to be welding into this rusty crap, you're going to have the same problem. So I've got it pretty much figured out that there's halfway decent metal there, right under the dent. So I'm going to come up this side here. I'm going to cut this all across. And then the door jamb, it gets kind of tricky getting everything to line back up on it, so I'm just going to barely take the edge of that door jamb line out. And I mean, that's going. But anyways, so I'll show cutting the patch out and welding everything in. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the grinder to cut off because it seems to be faster, because my air compressor's really not big enough to handle the cut-off tool. But anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the lines that I traced earlier, just roughly, and then you can take one of these Zerk wheels and smooth it up after you get done, and then what we'll do is take like either a piece of paper or a cardboard template and make sure we get the roll and everything right, just to be sure that it's going to fit. But you always want to try to wear gloves, you know, glasses, and I always wear a respirator, but that's up to you. But go ahead and get her sawed out here. Okay, so right off the bat, you can see the big hunks of rust falling out as I cut that off. And like I figured, you can see right about here we start getting back into good metal. Now, when it got ready to fall, you don't want to just grab it and rip it off, because like I said, we're going to use this as a template. And you can see that that's probably not square, whatever. And that's why I want to make a template. Yeah, it'd be 10 times easier if you just squared it out, but you know, we're not into the whole precision. But anyways, this will still work just as good and it'll look perfectly fine when we get done. But this, just put the coat of bondo over that, the first time you hit train tracks or a bump, it'd be gone. So we called it a good time. We're gonna get an old piece of fender in here next and a cardboard template, trace this out, and get ready to weld back in. Alright, so if you're doing both sides like we were, go ahead and label them passenger, driver, however you want to do it. And what we're going to do first is get us a piece of cardboard and roughly trace out the side of your cap corner that you cut out. Alright, and like right here where it's rusted out, I'll show you how to do that in a second. But go ahead and get everything traced out. Roughly, I mean, like I said, this ain't nothing important just yet. And then right here, we're just gonna have to like configure that was just a straight patch, you know what I mean? Like I said, we'll go test fit in a second. Okay. So, we're gonna cut this out, and then I'll get back to you at the truck, and we'll start test fitting and trimming it to fit. Alright, so you can see that I didn't cut the lines completely yet because you want to test fit in. So I'm going to go ahead and take these scissors here and cut up. Now, when you're welding stuff this thin, like the stuff that I weld for work, you know, you can lay yourself up to that's like an 1/8 of an inch gap, and you can weld it, you know. But you're welding anything from 1/8 inch all the way up to 2-inch steel, you know. Well, car panels, they're pretty thin, and they warp really, really easy. And like you got to pour some heat into something like weld up a gap like that. So I like to let it fit as tight as I can possibly get it to fit. And you're just spot welding. I'll explain all the welding once we get there, but obviously you can't make it cave in like that, so we're gonna take a little bit off this side over here still in certain spots, because like I said, we didn't square anything off. We just kind of roughly guesstimated where the cut needed to be made at. Still looks like we're gonna take a little bit off this side. I want to do this without any, what you'd say, major cutouts in the video, because, you know, if I struggle with something and I did it before, and this is your first time doing it, you know, I want you to not think that it's you that's messing up, you know. And by no means, I'm not a body man, you know. I weld in the coal fields, you know. So don't think that like I'm some professional at what I'm doing here, because you know I'm not. Just trying to help the next guy, you know. That's a pretty good fit on the sides. And then what you want to do is, earlier when I told you to leave your body roll in it, is that was so you got the right length. And what we'll do with the metal now is we'll put it in the vise and kind of crick it a little bit when we cut it out, and it should slide right in. Alright, so after you get everything cut and cleaned around it, take and paint back in the hole so future rust doesn't happen. And go ahead and get your patch cut out with the template. I cut it out of just an old fender I had. You can cut it out with the cutoff wheel, whatever. So get it cut out. And this one's got some holes in it that we'll spot weld up that had emblems in it. But anyways, you're gonna want to tack your patch in like the center here. And this is not like a straight, you know, curve, so it's got a bend in it. So you want to like work it in there. I mean, you're gonna want to take that out a couple times, fit it, and when you weld in the patch, you spot weld body panels because they're thin metal and they warp really easy. So like, say we start here and tack it in, we'll work it, tack here, and tack here. And you want to weld as much as you can possibly weld, and then body filler, you know. I personally, this is a work truck. It'll be done, like I said in the beginning, this is just the quickest, cheapest way to do a cab corner, make it look like something, hold paint. We're not going for Barrett Jackson choke quality. Got the MIG welder, gas on. You're gonna want to set your gas, as long as you're in like inside no wind, anywhere from 15 to 20. MIG settings, that just depends on your machine. And I'll get it spotted in and show you what I've got after that. Alright, so your patch is tacked in now. I mean, it's still gonna be flimsy on the bottom because we've not rode the bottom side. And in my case, the bottom, it really doesn't matter what it looks like. We can just roll with it, and you know, as long as it looks good, if there's not a gaping hole back here like there is right now, we can be all right. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna start, and I'm gonna weld probably from here to here. Let that be cooling, go over here, weld from here to here, so on and so forth, and weld at least 75% of that in. That'll be getting strong. We'll take a flat disc and grind it down. And even when you're grinding now, a grinder puts a lot of heat in too. And you can see on the panel where the heat rings are. It'll spew out like right down here. The heat's coming down to here, and you can see where heat's going. And you want to keep it anywhere from that's a little excessive, to be honest. Something like that right there is what you want to keep all the way down and around. And I'm going to keep saying it, but this wasn't a pre-bought patch. Nothing was measured off square. It's just it's through in there, and it's going to look just fine for a work truck when it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up welding this. I don't have anything to hold my camera. I may get a couple videos of me welding in, and then we'll skip over. I bought some bondo today. We'll get into bondoing and getting this right here, this gap right, and yeah, we'll have her looking nice. So I've got the majority of this spot welded in. You can see all you do is just trigger all the way down through there, and hit a weld in. There's a few spots that I didn't weld because, you know, there's a gap, and thin metal don't really weld good with gaps, and it's nothing big enough that bondo won't fill. So I'm gonna take a flat disc and I'm gonna clean these welds down good and smooth, and then we'll come in, we'll let this cool down, and I'll show you how to mix up bondo and spread some bondo on it. Right there it is, all sanded down, well, ground down. Come down to the door jams and rounded that all off. And like I said, you can see some few gaps and holes where it wasn't welded. But from here down is gonna get skimmed over with bondo, and or whatever filler I guess you gotta use, but and we'll go from there. So I'm gonna mix up some bondo here in just a second, and I'll show you a video doing that. Alright, so to do bondo work, you're gonna want something that you're not really gonna care about, like a piece of cardboard, something like that. And you're gonna wanna open up your pack of bondo and not throw everything everywhere. But anyways, you're gonna get a tube of cream hardener. And I bought a quart of filler. And you're gonna wanna start out, you want something to stir with, like a paint stick or something like that. I always use a welding rod because, you know, I've got a crap load of welding rods around here. And open your can, and you'll notice that your bondo's like a gray color. So what you want to do is you want to stir it up really good. Mix all the chemicals in it where it's sat on the shelf or been delivered or whatever. You want to mix that up really good. And you only want to mix up so much at a time because this stuff sets up pretty quick. So what I like to do is, I know I'm going to be spreading a pretty good lot in a pretty good amount of time, is I will get out about, for this first batch, that's a shoot load of bondo that I just pulled out on accident, but we're gonna roll with it. And just to give you an idea of how cheap you can be doing body work, you can either go to Harbor Freight, they sell them, and get yourself a pack of yellow squeegees, or red or whatever. But I took out a plastic bucket lid and cut me out a squeegee, and it's gonna do just as good for this job. But you wanna take your hardener and work it in your hands and mix it up a little bit. And for that big blob of bondo, it's gonna take a lot of hardener. So I always go across it and then make like an X. Really, it's like a guess game, to be honest with you. You want enough in it that's gonna set up, and not so much that's gonna set up as soon as you start up. I've always been told that I put way too much hardener, but I buy my hardener, and I have receipts showing that I bought my hardener, so it's nobody's business how much I use. But anyways, put a crap load of hardener in it, that's what I like to do, so you don't put too much and it's never gonna set up. And you want to stir it until it's one solid color. Like you got blue hardener, I've seen blue hardener and red hardener. This red hardener, you want to stir it until it's one consistent, like pinkish color. So I'll mix it up, and it's like more like a trial and error deal. I mean, you'll figure out how much you actually need hardener wise, and I'm sure there's some kind of math problem. Actually, I know there is, or some way to know, but I don't do body work for a living, and I don't act like I'm no kind of pro at it. Like, I'll tell you what I know, and I don't care to tell you that I don't know how to do something. and I can do enough bondo to get myself by. This whole video was about saving money and not letting some bondo guru at a body shop, you know, gut you on price. I've done enough of it that I can make a work truck look good, and that's that. And like that right there, that's like one solid pink color, but I add a little bit more hardener just to make sure. And I actually use so much hardener that when I bought this bondo today at Walmart, I bought 2 extra packs of hardener because I've never been able to use all the bondo in the can from 1 tube of hardener. Alright, that's pretty mixed up, and if it ain't, bite me, I guess. But get it, your squeegee, and you're gonna want to kind of work quick with this stuff because it does set up really, really quick. And I'll spread it on and show what I'm doing. Alright, so I threw that big glob of bondo on there. That was the first pass. I'm going to tell you, the more prep and time you take cutting out, welding in, grinding down smooth, and rolling it in like the contour, the less money you're going to spend on bondo and the less time you're going to spend sanding the crap off. As in my case, you seen that I just threw a patch in there, welded said patch in, ground the patch down, and now we're going to fight the bondo. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to let that coat there dry. Excuse me. I'm going to let it dry. And I'm going to sand the rough edges down. And I'm going to see how bad I am in my low spots. And then I'm going to apply another coat of bondo. And I'm going to keep doing that until I get it as smooth as I want it. And I went and I've got 80 grit already. And I bought some 220 and 320. I got some 400. And you're going to work your way down 80 grit, 220, 320, 400. And further if you need to. Then we're going to go from there on paint. This is the driver's side that I did already before I made the video. I came in about right here and cut, let's see, come in about right here and cut right inside what you see the bondo here is a plate patch that I had welded in. And the reason I did that is there had been something, it wasn't really rusted like the other side. What it was something that hit that really bad right there and the dent wasn't pulling. So I came up about 1/4 of an inch above it and under it and around it and cut it out, just put a new piece in. And bondoed it in, and I started with 80 grit and went down to 320 and then to 400. Places I'm gonna need to spot putty in, maybe. May just call it and paint it, filler primer. But that's what I'm kind of going for on the other side, is a good smooth finish. The bondo that I spread earlier is getting cured. It's getting kind of, bondo puts off a heat. It's a chemical reaction when it's curing. And you can see I can touch it. It's not sticking to me right now. It's a little rubbery and flaky right now. We'll finish letting that bond up good. And we'll start the sanding process on it. Like I said, we'll sand out these ridges and all that good stuff and get a good base down. And we'll definitely need more here and down here. Alright, first coat of bondo's got the high spot sanded down. You want to do is use a kitchen sponge. I make sanding blocks. I can show you the sanding block that I use. See over here. When you get to your final sanding step, you want to make sure everything's straight because bondo will show really bad waves. So you just put your sandpaper in this and it sands it straight. You can get these pretty cheap, $6-7 Harbor Freight. The first coat's on. We got a low spot here, here. Pretty much everywhere you see it's not white, and then there's actually a few high spots I'm going to take out with a longboard. But for the most part, it's looking pretty good right now. All right, after hours and hours of sanding and reapplying, I've got it down to this part here. Right now, we're just down to 80 grit, and you can see it's pretty well blended, and it's been kept straight. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix up a small coat of bondo, and like places like this, I'm going to like spot putty them in here, you know, just like little pinholes where bubbles has been in the bondo when we applied it. fill those in, sand it one last time, and then step up in grit. I'm gonna go from 80 to 220 to 320, and that should be high enough. So that's the plan. Let's see what we can do. All right, now that we've got the last skim coat on, which is, you can use what's called spot putty for. I just kind of mixed up a small batch and pressed it into the little pin hose. We're gonna switch over to 220 and 320 sandpaper to go from the 80, and we're gonna start working our way down. Really after 320, I guess if you were satisfied you could paint it, but to be honest, I guess that is, with no sanding, you know, you could paint it. It's completely up to you how far you want to go and the quality you want to get out of it. But for me, this is just a, it's gonna be a welding rig I'm working on. Just a little project. It's a 2003 f250. So I'm really not going for perfection or anything, but you know, I want it to look good, sorta. And but I'm gonna jump down and I can show what we got so far. Here you can see it's pretty close to being smooth, and it's you know, it's 80 grit smooth right now. And I'm gonna step down and I'm gonna start going higher in grit, and then we'll spray like a guide coat on it and see what we got. Now for the final part of this video, this is as far as I'm going with it. It's all mudded in, it's all sanded as smooth as I'm going. In my opinion, for what I'm using it for, it's ready for paint. Still got rust damage, a small bit here, as you can see, but the work truck, this was the worst of it. Get yourself some brake part cleaner, isopropyl alcohol, something, and just clean it down really, really good. And take you a clean rag and just kind of wipe her down. That's what we're gonna do, is we're gonna spray a little paint on it to make sure no rusting happens. Just got some Rust-Oleum flat black that I have in the shop. I'll shoot on just until we're ready for actual paint. So we'll try and get all the naked metal spots and go ahead and shoot some on the fresh bodywork there. Go ahead and cover everything good. Alrighty, and that's going to conclude the bodywork portion. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm by no means a body man. I weld for a living. May not even look like I do that by the looks of the welds in this body panel. But figured it'd be a cool thing to video and film along while me doing this. Maybe I'll film more me doing more in the build of the truck. Definitely going to put up some welding videos on when I mount the bed, building brackets and whatnot. Maybe even some wiring when I run the pod lights and whatnot. But I appreciate you watching. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one.